this is the motive power extractor, and this is the motive power fill. And we're going to go over three things. One is how to make this operational, because as delivered, it will not work. Two is I'm going to use both of these to see if making my transmission fluid change is going to be easier. And three is I want to explain how you can make one of these at a far lesser cost than you would buy it for. So the way the extractor is going to work is it has this really narrow fill tube here, or extraction tube I should say, that's supposed to go through your dipstick all the way and suck out all the fluid. Now, like I said earlier, it did not work for me when I tried to do it for my oil, but just, that may be just my vehicle. So we're going to do it again, and we're going to try and put this into the transmission fluid hole and try to suck out any fluid. So you put this in, basically, you clip this off, right? So you're creating, like this hose is pinched, right? And then we're going to create this vacuum here by just pumping this up, right? And it's got a little gauge on it. It's kind of hard to do while I'm holding the phone. So I'll pump it up until we get a little bit of pressure. So I've been pulling this handle for a while, and it's still at 0. There's no pressure in here. And I guarantee you, once I undo this clip, I'm not going to feel any pressure here. So undo this, and there's absolutely no suction motion here coming from this. So this does not create a vacuum, unfortunately. So I'm not even going to try to do this. I'm just going to undo the drain bolt, and I cannot recommend the Power Extractor. Here is a look at me trying to do it for the oil change. Let's go ahead and watch it fill up. That really didn't do much. So even though this doesn't actually hold the pressure here, we're still going to try it from the outside. So I'm going to stick this in. As you can see, I really don't want to undo my drain plug. That's okay. We're going to stick this into the fill tube all the way. And if you can see it going in there, can you? Yeah. All right. I'm going to stick it in all the way. And we've got to be able to... I feel I'm at the bottom now. And I feel like we have to be able to get some fluid out of here. All right. So now that's in there, and I'm going to start pumping like crazy to see if it comes out. So here we go. Let me put this on here. I don't know if you can see. And there's no fluid coming out, so I cannot recommend this Power Extractor. So this power fill, the theory behind it is you pump it up into it, make it creating a vacuum, right? And then this handy ball valve controls the output of the fluid. You can, right now it's off, you can turn it on, the fluid expels because there's pressure here, and you turn it back off when the fluid starts draining back out. And it's handy because the pressure is here, so you don't need another person pumping the fluid out of the bottle. Now, the way it's shipped, however, or the way it comes to you, is with this hole in here. And I didn't notice this, but there is it comes with a Schrader valve, right? And the Schrader valve, unfortunately, is in here. I didn't even see it at first. And this is just like a tire nozzle, if you will. And I wrestled with this with oil and pliers and whatnot to try and get it through this hole, and I couldn't do it. So the only way to really get this through the hole is to use a tire or a Schrader valve puller tool like this, where it screws onto the tip of the Schrader valve, and that's so you're not crushing with a plier, because I didn't want to apply too much force to the plier because I didn't want to crush the valve. So you cinch that on there, and this should be enough force to pull it through. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of oil on it as well, right here where it's going to go through. This is just general 3-in-1 all-purpose oil. And should have put it through the thing first. And there's a very small opening here with this bottom. So you got to fit your hand through here, right? And that's tough. And if you have big hands, it's going to be even worse. Put the Schrader valve puller on this side, and I may need to re-angle this camera if I can't get it to go to the floor. I'm going to put this here, put my feet on it, get some leverage, use this hand to pull it up, this hand to push it through. And hopefully, thank God, this thing will come through. I think I have to get on the edge here, but I'm not very flexible. I can't help but thinking, oh, there we go. Should the consumer be responsible for doing this? I would think that it should come like this. But anyway, so that's piece A, right? So now, this is going to be sealed up, so when you actually pump this with air, and I don't even know why they have this. I mean, I've got this pump right here. Why do I need to have this separate air nozzle? I mean, that kind of, well, anyway. The second thing is on the website you'll see a filler tube, right? But that extends from this shutoff, and it will go into the fill hole of whatever fluid you're transferring. But it doesn't actually come with it, right? And so what you can do, or what I'm going to do, is this inner diameter is 3/8 of an inch. So I'm just going to cut off a piece of tubing, because I need about maybe that much length. And so I'll just cut off a piece of tubing here. And I'll give myself a little bit of extra. And that's more than I would need for where my tranny fuel is located. So there we go. And then I will stick this into the end here and just kind of wedge it in. And if you have difficulty, you really shouldn't, but if you do, you can try using some dishwashing detergent to kind of force it in there, and then it'll become, in a few minutes, like kind of sticky, so it shouldn't come out. So I hope this doesn't come out, actually. Now here's the one thing that's worth mentioning, is that I contacted Motive about these issues. This not working actually for my oil change. I'm going to try for my transmission fluid change. And then the two problems of how this was shipped. And they didn't even bother to respond. Let me say that again. You heard that right. Motive didn't even bother to respond. So as you can see, I've put the automatic transmission fluid into the power fill. I've pumped it up, it's holding pressure, and you can see the fluid is actually going through the tube. So I have a lot more confidence in this. And now let's go ahead and put this into the fill tube and release the ball valve and see if it fills up. Once it starts coming back out, then I know that this is filled up. So release this, and there it goes. And it's dripping a little bit, but that's okay. That did do the job. So you can probably use that power fill if you do what I did, the two things I did to make it operational. Yeah, the only thing that's bothersome is this little drip, but that might be because I don't have the best connection and I needed to have that, yeah, it's working. Look at that. So the power extractor didn't work for me in either scenario, the engine oil or the transmission fluid. So this is going to be an attempted return. The power fill, however, did work, but all things considered, for me personally, in my situation, didn't save me much time. I typically, if I can't find a buddy to stand outside the vehicle and pump the fluid for a couple minutes, I will just, brace the canister of fluid with my legs, hand pump it, right, while that hose is in there, and I'll just have my fill plug in the other hand, and as soon as I see the fluid coming back out, I'll just put the fill plug in. So so that's no more messier than what this was. Anyway, if you wanted to make this yourself, all this is a tub that gets pumped with vacuum pressure with a hose leading out and a shutoff. So you could take a regular garden sprayer. It doesn't even have to be as good as this one. It could be like a $10 Home Depot garden sprayer where you can pump up the tub and it's got a hose emanating from it, and all you would need to do is on the end of that hose put this type of a shut-off valve on there and then extend the hose a bit. Don't do it as much as I did, but you probably only need to extend it like this much. And now you've got your shut-off, so now you can pump up that sprayer here. When you pour the fluid and you pump up the sprayer, have this in the off position, and then put this into the fill hole, and when you're ready, turn to the on position. When the fluid comes out, you turn it to the off position again. Pretty simple. And you could make this for the cost of that sprayer, which may be like $10 if you get a cheap Home Depot one. This shutoff, which is probably another $10, and a little bit of extra tubing at the end of it.